Hey guys, it's Melanie Ham. Welcome back to my channel. What's up? Okay, today's video we're gonna do the modern maple leaf quilt block. This guy right here, look how cute it is. Very classic block, but with sort of modern fabric choices to give you some ideas. So the video will go over all this. As always, over on my blog is the free written instructions, and just for you guys over there, I have got this table runner pattern. Oh, it's kind of upside down. It's better. That's over there for you if you need the instructions on, adding a border and how much fabric you'll need and all that good stuff. There's a printable option. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of my blog post, click on the print option and it will create a beautiful printable option for you for free. Let's just jump right in. Let's get right to it. The modern maple leaf block for our quilted table runner. This is what you're going to need to make one block. It is going to finish at 6 inches. So that means before you sew it in, it'll measure at 6.5 inches. This is a 2.5 inch background, and then you need 3 of your color or your leaf print. That's 2.5. This 2.5 and these 2-inch blocks are for the stem unit, right? So this one right here is going to be with this 2.5 and these 2-inch squares. And then we have, these are 3-inch squares. And these are going to be making our half square triangles. I'm not going to go over how to cut your squares. I'm sort of already assuming that you know how to cut patchwork squares. I have a video on that, all about cutting and using your rotary cutter, so I will have that linked below if you need it. But the first thing that we're going to do is make our half square triangles. Again, that is this unit right here. I have a whole video on that, so if you really need to go slow and really in depth, check that video out. But if you just need a quick reminder, that is what I'll do right now. This is one unit, and this is one unit. Each unit will make 2 half square triangles, so that's why they need to be a little bit larger. I'm gonna mark on the back of the print because I'll be able to see my red pen a little bit easier. So we're gonna place our right sides together, and this buffalo check, it's hard to tell right sides. I don't even think there is a right and wrong side. A lot of times if you're using solids, that can happen, so don't worry too much about that. If you can't tell, no one else can tell either. Right sides together, take a ruler, and we're gonna draw a line right down the middle. See that line? While we're at it, let's do the other one. I like to throw a pin on here. Just helps with transporting to the machine. Before we do that though, let's work on our stem unit because then we can just do all the sewing at once and it'll make it go a little quicker for us. So the way we're going to do the stem unit is this is our 2.5 inch block. So we're going to take our 2-inch square and place it in one corner. Then we're going to draw a line diagonally, and then when we're over at the machine, we're going to sew directly on that line. There's a couple of different ways to make this block, but I feel like this is the simplest way. Right, so there's our line. I'm going to put a pin here, and then just go ahead and do the other side. And then when we're sewing, we'll just need to make sure that this one is, the other square is out of the way. Put a pin on this side as well. Now let's head over to the sewing machine and we're going to take our 2 half square triangle units as well as our stem unit and get those sewn together. I've got a 1/4 inch foot on my machine. You do not have to use this. Just make sure that your seam allowance is 1/4 inch. And that's important because of the measurements that I've prepared for you. Your block might end up a different size if you don't have a 1/4 inch. I even like to do a scant 1/4 inch, which is even a few threads smaller. I've got a coordinating thread color on here, my favorite Dove Gray from Arfill. My sewing machine is set at a 2.4 stitch length, so, not too small, not too big. The first thing we're gonna do is do our half square triangle units. If you need a little refresher, we are gonna be sewing 1/4 inch on either side of that center line. If you don't have one of these feet, you can always draw a 1/4 inch line and mark it that way with your ruler. Now to save time, we're going to chain piece these, which basically just means we're not going to cut our threads, and we're going to make a little chain of a few stitches and then grab our next unit. All right, so let's just keep with that chain, and now we're going to do one side of our stem unit. We're going to sew, instead of sewing on either side of the line, we're going to sew directly on the line for this one. When you're doing this, just make sure that that other square is out of your way. All right, now we can cut our threads, and we're just gonna take this little string of 3. And if you're gonna do a bunch of these, I recommend prepping all of your squares and just like doing a whole string of them and just getting them all done assembly line fashion. I feel like that really speeds up the amount of time that you're getting up and down. All right, that's done. Let's go ahead and heat up that iron and take our pins out and head back over to the work table. All right, so let's grab some scissors and trim our little chains. Half square triangle units, we need to cut along that line. So we're going to cut these in half. See, there's our stem unit. So we need to cut off this excess. So to the right of that stitch line, about 1/4 inch. Your color or your print should be facing up. Quickly set the seam, fold this up. The seam is laying on that printed side. If you have a ruler that has a diagonal line on it, that's really helpful. And I'm using this 2.5 inch line. And then this is 1, 2.5, so then down here. There we go, we've got our perfect little 2.5 inch half square triangle. Do that for the other 3 half square triangle units, and then we'll put our block together. Here is our block, and I actually did end up trimming the stem unit also. It didn't need a lot, but it just sort of cleaned up the edges a little bit. What I like to do is take and sew this seam first. So I'm gonna put right sides together. This is our top, so we put it on the top, put it on the top. That way we can just take this over to our sewing machine, sew it all together. So this one right here, we're gonna line those up. They're small enough blocks that I don't really need to pin, but if you would like to pin, by all means, go ahead and do that. We're gonna sew along this right edge with a scant 1/4 inch. Same idea, we're gonna chain piece, so we're gonna give ourselves a little chain. This guy right here, right sides together, lining everything up really nicely. Cut your threads. We're going to leave those attached, so don't cut those threads yet. We're going to take our next little stack and we are going to attach that. All right, now check it out, super handy. This is all connected, right? So no chance you're gonna drop it and mess it up. So let's head over to the ironing board. And basically what we wanna do is have one row, the seams facing one direction, the second row then facing the opposite direction, third row. That way we can lock those seams in. This is called nesting our seams together. It gets those perfect corners. Now over at the sewing machine, we'll place these right sides together and those seams are now gonna lock together. So you can pin these if you would like to, but I just sort of make sure they're locking in place before I sew it down and then use my finger to push it through. So let's go sew down our seam. We're almost done. Head back to the work table. For this block, I like to press my seams open. And in order to do that, we're gonna have to trim our little chains that we had here. So see, if we try to press it open, this chain kind of gets in the way, so we gotta trim that. So those seams open. I like to flip it over to the right side and give it an additional quick press. All right, now the last thing to do is trim it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's also that 6-inch line, and here's that 6.5. So you're gonna line those things up. So just a teeny little bit, rotate it around. Now we have this nice cut. We can line those things up. Now we've got the perfect 6.5-inch maple leaf block. You can take this block and put it in the table runner, in a quilt. The options are really endless. So many ideas for this. So keep in mind when you are done, it'll be 6.5 inches. But then, you know, once it's sewn in to your project, it will be 6 inches. There's how to make my modern maple leaf block. All right, what'd you think? Not too bad, right? Adorable little block. I hope that that was helpful for you. Leave me any questions, comments down below. Don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. Everywhere you could find me is in the description box below, as well as the blog post. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.